I'm only one drink away from the devil. I'm only one call away from home.
Welcome back to the Cuddy and Gavi Show. We're on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Apple. Our website, cuddyandgavi.com, is under repair. Before we became podcast superstars, we started this website on the cheap, and now, it blew up with all our merchandise sales, and obviously we couldn't fulfill all those orders, so we put it under repair. We're redoing it, and when it gets back, it'll be able to handle the traffic for all our merchandise sales. We have hats, we have cups, we have shirts, and our hats are the adjustable hats because we have big heads. Anyway, just wanted to go over a little of our analytics, Gavi, because we are, in a very sophisticated spot here now, being podcast superstars, over 151,000 listeners. So our analytics have us 68% of our audience is women between the age 35 and 55. It's an astounding number. I mean, Gavi, not only are you a podcast superstar, you are a sex symbol now. I mean, 68% of your audience
It's
is
gone
women.
up. But the numbers have gone up in that category. It's crazy.
It's unbelievable. Who are all these women that are listening and watching?
They're drinking wine during the day.
It's unbelievable. So we were talking about that. I go to there's a great spot down here called Houston. So I go maybe 1-2 days a week, meet my guys, have lunch. And almost everybody at the bar is having wine or beer or a martini for lunch. And most of them are women. And I said to Gavi, have you ever had drinks at lunch? We work, both of us work. And, going to lunch and having 1 or 2 martinis and going back to work, how do you stay awake? It's unbelievable.
I don't remember ever drinking, drinking during the day when I work. Now at 5 o'clock I made up for it. At 5 o'clock I made up for it. But really to sit down here, you see a lot of women drinking they can go through. They split a bottle.
Yeah, they have a glass of wine, or they have.
It's nice. But I never had that. I think more women drink during the day than men.
So now they have these drinks where they're disguised like lemonade or something like that. So you don't know. I was sitting next to a gal yesterday. I said, "What are you drinking there? It looks pretty good." She said, "Oh, it's a margarita." I said, "Oh, it looks like a lemonade. Where's the salt on the top?" And she said, "Oh, no, I don't want people to know I'm drinking." So anyway.
These high noons, by the way. Do you ever see this?
No.
High noon, it's like, you can get it with... You can get it with vodka and lemonade or tequila, and it's like, I'm telling you, they're going through a ton of high noons. It's like water. It's like they drink it like it's healthy.
Crazy. So let's hit our football picks. Last week was a tough week. We did have the Eagles. The Eagles won. Yeah. Philadelphia Eagles against.
I lost college. College, I lost pretty bad. I can't
even know how you do college.
I can't stand Notre Dame, and they actually they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Clemson destroyed them. And then in the pros, I had Tennessee. Tennessee's field goal kicker gets hurt. They go down. The points are 2.5. They could end up kicking the extra point with literally 4 seconds to go in the game, just because they already scored the touchdown, which would have covered. But because their field goal kicker got hurt, they took a knee, and they ended up losing the game by 2 rather than 3. So, but this week,
yeah. What are you?
But this week, 2 games. One's in college. Michigan minus 4.5 over Penn State. Penn State always fades at the end. They always start off everybody's all excited, all the Penn State fans, but they never come up big. Every time they face either Ohio State or Michigan, their season comes to an end. And then in the pros, I like Indianapolis over the New England Patriots. It's Indy by minus 1.5.
Patriots are shit anymore.
They're thinking about getting rid of Belichick.
Without Tom Brady, Belichick's been terrible. Really isn't.
By the way, it's been 20 years. They had 2 decades, And now it's like, what have you done for me lately?
Well, he's great in his news conferences. At the end of the game, they ask him a question, and his answers are like, "No, yeah, you saw it."
You know what? That works. That works
When you're winning, right?
Just like, by the way, Andy Reid, who's doing great in Kansas City.
Right.
But when the Eagles were losing, and he used the same thing where I have to do a much better job of putting people in place to make things, I take full responsibility.
That was Ray Rhodes. Remember him?
That was Andy Reid, too. He always
Right.
would say, I have to do a better job. And you know what? After a while, they finally said, do it somewhere else.
Well, I think Bill Belichick, I mean, they're paying him some astronomical amount of money, and maybe it's his time to go. He's probably 70 years old.
Do you think it's because he split with his, fiance?
Oh, I didn't know that. That young girl?
The young girl, right before the start of the season.
He could be devastated.
Do you think like that's like something? Do you think it's?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Kelsey. Look at the whatchamacallit, Travis Kelsey.
Right.
I mean, like, do you see his numbers when Taylor Swift is watching and in the stands, and when he's not? They have the two stats. It's night and day difference. He plays so much better when she's watching.
Well, I agree. This could be a great week for the Eagles. It's a bye week,
Yeah.
so you
And
know,
Kansas City.
and Kansas City. So there's not much that can happen.
And they played
there.
next week, the two of them.
And then staying on Philadelphia, we have Joel Embiid, you know, the basketball star in Philadelphia. They got rid of James Harden, who everybody said was a cancer. We hated him.
Yeah, they got Joel Embiid. He broke a 76ers record. The guy scored 29 points in the third quarter the other night. Scored 48 points in like 31 minutes of play. Didn't even play the entire fourth quarter. I mean, the guy is a true superstar. You got Tyrese Maxey, who's playing great without Embiid, and without Harden. We got other players. I think the Sixers are going to end up, just like it shows all the time, you get these guys that think are superstars, get them out of the way, and you find out that they were they were taking the team down.
Right, and you have these guys on the bench that end up ultimately being
James
superstars.
Harden's a loser.
Well, you can't say that. He was an MVP for how many years?
Never
and-
won a championship.
That's true, but look, in his mind, he did. He made $40 million a year, so he didn't really care. I mean, he was having a good time. Anyway, so this is another tough week for Israel, and, you know, a little levity of the situation. You know, we're watching Instagram all the time because of our reels. We have all these reels going up on our show on Instagram. And one of the reels that's really great is this Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have you seen that one with the Palestinian chicken?
I did. How it could actually bring peace, you know.
It's great. Larry David and Jeff Green. What's his name? What's his name in the show? I forget. Jeff Green, who's his manager. They go into this Palestinian chicken place, and Larry says, and there's signs all over every wall that says, kill the Jews, you know.
And there's no Jews eating in there, so he thought it would be a great spot that you could go if you're cheating on your spouse, because no Jew would ever see you in there.
Right, and Larry picks up the Palestinian hostess, and gorgeous girl, takes him back to his house, and they show him in this wild sex scene where she's screaming, fuck me, you dirty Jew. It was so funny. If you can Google YouTube on it, it's really very funny.
Yeah, it's a great scene. And then we have our that brings us to our winners and losers.
Right. So you want to? I mean, again, winner has to be this weather in South Florida. I don't want to promote South Florida too much because the traffic is pretty crazy anymore, and there are a lot of people living down here, but this last week has been spectacular. I mean,
I'm
every
tan
day.
just from walking outside.
Look how tan Gavi is.
Just from
Look at
walking.
him.
It's just from walking, and it's
He is a sex symbol. 68% of our viewership is women now because of him.
It's 80 and sunny, not a cloud in the sky, low humidity.
I know.
Great.
It's perfect.
And every time something happens up north, you know, by the way, there's a caravan. 10,000 people are coming to our southern border. That just means more people are going to come here when the people up north, because we're not a sanctuary city here, so they're going to come down here.
So, again, on winners, we have Fox and CNN. And again, CNN, although I don't like them, their coverage has been good.
Right. And Fox is killing the ratings. You know, it's interesting. I have a person that I met at the dog park, and she hates Donald Trump. She hates the Republican Party. She is as far left of a Democrat as I've ever met. nice girl, but she's just like, it doesn't want to hear anything. And then the other day, she says to me, I'm starting to watch Fox News.
Crazy.
I said, why? She said, the Israeli conflict. She says, you got Morning Joe, you got
Joy Reid, MSNBC.
Yeah, but Joy Reid's horrible. You got the other guy whatchamacallit, it's slipping my mind Donnie Deutsch.
Oh, yeah,
Donnie
he's the
Deutsch
worst.
said but he said some really, nice things that are the truth of what's going on, and great, he's giving you the honest thing. So he started lecturing people on how Israel has to defend themselves. So did Morning Joe. But the Joy Reids of the world, these people are scared. And now this woman, she's scared about the southern border. She's finally waking up and saying, do you know we have a problem on the southern border? It's wide open. And I'm like, well, welcome to the dance. It's like people from Fox News at least know that we have a problem at the southern border. I mean, there's a lot of people that just listen to Kamala Harris saying everything's okay.
Well, what happens if we have a terrorist attack in America and they find out that person came through the southern border? It's it's all over for Uncle Joe. I mean,
Mayorkas was on the.
I don't know how he takes such a beating.
Well, you want to know something? Well, he was on the stand yesterday, and they asked him one question, and I would like everybody to know, this was a question that they asked him. There were 168 known people on the watch list that were terrorists. And they came through our border that we caught them. It's now went up to 200. And they asked him, where are they right now? Where are they? And he said, we don't know. Now, you caught them. You let them. Now, you can't feel good about, how do you not know where 200 known terrorists are in the United States right now? We're just waiting. And that's, by the way, that would be the end of Joe Biden. If one terrorist attack comes right now,
and there's,
through the southern border, it's over.
Unfortunately, we're going to have one. I mean, the hatred across America right now, these anti-Jew, anti-Israel rallies is so predominant. I don't know how some nut isn't going to do something.
One funny thing was, there was a woman, 34 years old, never had didn't have a record or anything, and she saw this building that said Israelites. They were the Black Israelites, and they were a very anti-Semitic organization, and basically they had a school. And she decided, she thought it was Israel. She thought it was a bunch of Jewish kids. So she rammed her car through the daycare. No one got hurt or anything. And when the police came, she said, yeah, I did it, because of they're Jews. And then they had to break the news to her.
That was the other side.
that you guys were on the same side. And and she still was getting arrested for a hate crime. And she could be looking at, 10 years.
So another winner, I think, has to be, war is not great. I don't know. Is that our audience back there? I mean, we have close to 80 people sitting in here today. You folks have to keep quiet. We're doing our podcast, please. Israel, surprisingly, all these pundits, all these generals, and all these people that are on TV, like Milley, all these geniuses that say leave $80 billion worth of equipment, said Israel's going to get their ass wiped in this war. In the meantime, they've already gone all the way to the Mediterranean. They have the whole north end of the country. Unfortunately, they have 20 or 30 casualties, but they seem to be rolling through it pretty quick.
They're in Gaza City right now.
Yeah, they're in Gaza. They have everything circled now.
They know where the tunnels are. They know where they're actually, these guys have their headquarters underneath the hospital, underneath the daycare center. I mean, the sophistication that I just think the education that, Israel never was occupying them. Basically, they walked away in 2006. They basically said, do what you want, build hotels, make it a tourist destination, thrive. They decided to take their money and build these tunnels. Meanwhile, the heads of Hamas are living in Qatar, and they're billionaires. They're living great.
Yeah, so I think Israel's done a really, I mean, it's horrible, but I was against them going in. I didn't want them
I
to
was
go in.
for it.
You were for it. I was on the wrong side of it. You know, anything can happen in war, but right now,
Less casualties than you thought for
so
the
many
Israelis.
more. And I believe, you know, from watching CNN and Fox, I believe within the next week they're going to find the hostages. That's my prediction. You heard it here, folks. I mean, you know, they have a plan. They surrounded Gaza City. They think the
Do
hostages.
you think they find them, or do you think they hand them over because they want to stop what's going on?
Well, they're getting a lot of pressure from Joe Biden. I don't know. I can't make that
I
prediction.
think Qatar puts tremendous pressure on them because I think the United States is going to put pressure on Qatar, and Qatar's going to say, "Listen, you know, we're giving we're letting all the people from Hamas, the leaders, stay in our country right now. We're taking some heat for you guys. Release the hostages at least." And I think it's going to help Qatar out, and that's why they're going to release them.
I think it's happening in the next week. Either going to find them dead or they're going to release them. Something's going to happen in the next week. The Israelis are encircling the city. They're already out to the sea. So those are our winners. There aren't that many.
Stock market.
Stock market, Santa Claus rally. We're doing great.
Yeah,
Coming back.
First female mayor in Philadelphia.
First female mayor in Philadelphia, but the losers on staying on the elections, I mean, that red wave, what happened yesterday?
What happened? I'll tell you what happened. The Republicans are going to have to get off this abortion issue. You know, I could run. I could run because I'm telling you.
You're a problem solver, Gavin. You are a
I'm
problem
conservative.
solver.
I have some, you know, I'm for some measures of gun control. I would like just to also stick to the laws that are already there. But abortion's an issue. I'm pro-choice.
So if you were president of the United States, maybe wave a magic wand, I mean, how are you going to represent the abortion?
I would turn around and say I'm pro-choice. I'm not going to say I'm for abortion. I'm pro-choice, but I'm going to say let's have a discussion on a limit. And I'm not going to sit there and put myself in a box and say 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks. I want to sit there and say, do you think in the 8th month that's too long?
But
I think the majority of people would say, okay, 8th, and we can. And then, by the way, if your state, since it goes to the states, if I would say, okay, the state of Ohio, the state of Pennsylvania, the state of Florida says 7 months. If you want to go to California, you want to go to New York and get an abortion in your 8th month, no one's saying no. Just don't do it in that state, and let the people of each state come up with their number that they can live with.
Well, let me clear the record. You know, our biggest amount of comments, hate mail, pro mail, was over this abortion issue. I don't really want to spend much time on it because I don't want to get too much hate mail. But, you know, I will say the problem is the Supreme Court overturned a 50, 60-year-old law, and
They just gave it back to the states, though.
I understand, but the Republicans, or Donald Trump, or however it happened, the Supreme Court got loaded, and
these dummies are sitting there saying
they created an issue which was dead. You know, like they were dealing with it, and now it's a bigger issue.
Instead of talking about the economy, security, and all this other stuff, everything's on this losing issue, and that's where Donald Trump seized the light. By the way, he is the one guy who's saying he is now going to say pro-choice. Just like, but that's, you know, it's
just such a bad issue for everybody.
It
to
is,
talk
and
about.
that's why you just let the states, and whatever it is, it is. Let the people decide, and I'm okay with that.
So now on our, you know, with losers, Gavi,
There's a lot of losers.
There's a lot of losers, and certainly not us, because we are podcast superstars, and you are a sex idol here. Is your wife a jealous woman? I mean, now that you're...
Will you stop it already? I mean, you're like,
Now,
enough already.
Let's talk about these college presidents.
She's cute. My wife is cute.
Gorgeous, by the way, gorgeous. She modeled our. I keep going back to our merchandise, but she did model it for our photographs, and she was fabulous in it. But these college presidents, stone cold losers. I mean, these people are making millions. You know what a college president makes, like at University of Pennsylvania?
$10 million a year, $6 million a year.
Some big giant money. And for them to act and do what they're doing is hate speech is not free speech.
But I learned something today. I learned something that it cleared up a lot to me, this thing. You know, everybody talks about these these presidents of these universities, and they want to have them removed. Like Bill Ackman wants the Harvard president to be removed. People at University of Pennsylvania, they want the president, McGill, they want her to step down. And, you know, some people are saying maybe let them try to change. Let them try to see them way out of this mess and give them a second chance. But now I understand why they have to go. Because as it turns out, all these people, a lot of Jewish people holding back their money to these universities, if they hold back 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. As it turns out, they just had a report that came out today on colleges get foreign money, and you're supposed to report how much foreign money you receive, but no one really looks at it. So you're supposed to report it, but a lot of colleges don't report it. And as it turns out, they found out that a lot of these colleges have received close to $1 billion.
You're saying an individual college received $1 billion?
$1 billion. I think Harvard got $980 million. I think Yale got $600 million.
Much more
Carnegie
than any
Mellon got
private
$500
donor
million.
can give.
A lot of colleges, yes, like unbelievable.
Let's say you're a rich guy like Leon Cooperman, you give $50 million. That's nothing compared to what you're saying is $1 billion from
Right, and they said, so what country do you think gave the most money?
Saudi Arabia.
Well, that's a really good. It's close. It's Qatar.
Qatar. I
but
don't
a lot
even
of
know
people,
where friggin' Qatar
but
is.
a lot
Where
of people,
is Qatar, Ben, on the map? Can you show?
Yeah, it's right by Egypt, and I'll tell you what what does Qatar do? All the leaders of Hamas, where do they live? Qatar. All the pro-Palestinians that you see during this march, and all the people that are putting money come from Qatar. So they're backing all of these demonstrations that
So
you
is
see.
that on our podcast right now? So show me, do you have a pointer or anything? That's it. So it's next to what country? What's a border on Qatar?
Borders on, I think, Lebanon.
Saudi Arabia, right? And
How close is it to Iran? Is it close to Iran?
Yeah, it's not far.
Yeah,
It's in the region.
It's pretty
Yeah,
close.
it's all there.
Yeah.
Right. So
Crazy.
So it's everybody would think it's China. People would think, oh,
Yeah,
China, because
China.
China's given,
That was my
look at the
second
size.
guess.
So people were thinking China and some other things, but it's not. So it's this country that's housing the Palestinian Hamas leaders are giving it. So when a university takes in this money, you could see how it starts affecting the student body, who gets in, who's running the the Harvard Review. It's a pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas. I shouldn't even say pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas. So all these people that graduate these universities, where do they go to? They become your writers for the New York Times. They become your executive directors for NBC. And all of a sudden, through their spectrum, they're bringing you the news. Distorted as it is. They are the ones who are shaping how you think. And it could be so easy as just give the money from these foreign countries. And if you're not seeing where it's coming from, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years.
Well, it's interesting. I have several friends that run these Fortune 50, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. And I ask them all the time, how can you justify being not even a president or a CEO, a chairman, getting a salary of $30 or $40 million a year, and they say, well, I only have to make one right decision a year. I don't have to run a business. I just have to make one good decision a year that makes the trajectory of the company in a new direction. And that's what I think these college presidents are falling down on. They need to make one good decision, two good decisions, and they're making bad decisions on these protests. This whole protesting thing is just bad.
Yeah, but some of them are professional protesters, and when people speak like when Tlaib, the congresswoman who got censored the other day, when she speaks and says the whole country's for Palestine. You know, I don't know if it makes you feel that the whole country is against the Jews, but I'm really curious to know if that's the way it really is, or if there's there's a lot of people for the Jews.
Well, how are we going to find out? I mean, we need to know.
Well, a lot of Jews
I've
feel
lost
alone
my
right now.
sense of understanding of what's going on in the world. I wasn't tuned into this whole thing myself, and now it's like blown out of the sky.
Well, there
and-
was a lot of maybe closet pro-Hamas people. Because I want to ask you a question. Do you see how many Palestinian flags are out there? Who had a Palestinian flag in their house? I mean, how many people ran out and had bought where do you even buy a Palestinian flag?
So let me ask you this question, Gavi. I mean, you see all these boats going down the intercoastal in downtown Florida where we are, which is gorgeous, and they're flying these Trump flags. What are you going to do this weekend when you're sitting on your back patio looking at the boats going down the intercoastal and you see them flying a Palestinian flag on the back of their boat?
Or how about if they say Allah Akbar? I would get my boat out of the water if I heard Allah Akbar. Or if a yacht pulled up into the marina and started screaming Allah Akbar, would you run?
Yeah.
If you were in a movie theater and you heard someone yell Allah Akbar, would you run out of the movie theater?
Yeah.
A restaurant, would you run out?
Unbelievable.
But if you stand outside the White House and they yell Allah Akbar, you're safe. You're safe because you're
Well,
one
talk about that. I mean, they painted the White House gates. They painted the walls on the White House gates with red paint. Here, people took their big toe and put it in January 6th in the Capitol, and these guys are going to jail for 3 or 5 years. Where is Merrick Garland and
Ray.
the Justice Department
And Ray.
For all those people that spray painted the front of the White House gates? They say they can't find them. Well, how about they find all these people?
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
James Dolan, who owns the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers in Madison Square Garden, he has facial recognition. He could tell you, he can stop you from coming in that building just by facial recognition. Are you trying to tell me outside the White House gates, they don't know who is outside there? That's defacing their property.
Why isn't something happening?
Well,
I mean, how can they cover that up? They spray painted the front
for
of
the
the White
same
House.
reason that there was a Jewish guy, 67-year-old guy named Kessler, who was there was a Palestinian Israel, 2 competing protestings in California, and the guy took a megaphone, hit him in the head. He fell backwards, cracked his head open. He died. And if you listen to the newscast, it was like a man fell, hit his head, and suffered his fate. But they didn't mention who it was. They didn't want to say that it was a hate crime, that he got hit. Now the witnesses are coming out. Now they're trying to scramble. But when they first brought the news to you, they didn't say it. But it's like if you took out the Jew and you put in another thing, they would tell you exactly what the situation is.
So you're an alumni of any one of these colleges. I was talking to the frat boys last night at, they had me on the speakerphone. They're watching CNN, the coverage coming in from and these guys are all Wall Street kids, first year out of college, all super liberal, and they're moving away from Biden. They're saying they can't vote for Trump, though. They just can't vote for Trump, but they can't vote for Biden because of what's happening.
But I'm happy with that because the needle has moved. We'll get them to Trump. Right now,
they say they just can't vote for the
guy. That's baby
guy.
steps. We had them moving. They're off of Joe Biden right now. So that's a move in the right direction. By the way, no vote for Biden is a half a vote for Trump because he was going to. That's it's not. It doesn't hurt him. If you vote for Biden, it hurts Trump. A no vote, it kind of helps him. But I think eventually, when a little terrorist attack happens, when all of a sudden gasoline gets worse and it's the wintertime comes and they start seeing the crime in New York. But don't forget, there's a caravan, 10,000 people coming to the southern border. When New York City, since the frat boys live in New York City, when all of a sudden they're walking outside and they're in the it's cold out there. The tents, they can't house them anymore. All of a sudden, they might say, how do we clean this up? First of all, they're going to have to change from a sanctuary city. And I think the frat boys are going to say, okay, I can't stand the guy. I can't stand his tweets. I can't stand anything. But you know what? We need him. We need him for just 4 years. Then we'll get rid of him.
So it was great. Last night I had a spirit discussion with one of these frat boys, and they were all sitting around and listening. And, through the 4 years of college, I always got into these, arguments with them. And clearly they're way smarter than me. I mean, these kids are, Ivy League educated. And what's remarkable is They were stuttering last night. The first time they weren't talking over me, and telling me I was an idiot and a moron. All of a sudden now, where they're seeing 30 American people, troops getting killed, and Joe Biden not doing anything. And I'm not picking on Joe Biden. I'm just telling you about the way of the world right now, and it's pretty awful. And all of a sudden, they're getting nervous. The economy's spiraling out of control. The housing market, I saw the head of a giant. I was talking to the head of a giant real estate company, retail real estate brokerage company on Saturday, and he said in his lifetime, this guy's in his mid-60s, he hasn't seen it this bad. And I said, even when rates were 17%, he said, it's just awful. So, and I was talking to a major car dealer on Saturday up at my golf club, and he said, look, I said, how's the car business? He said, well, on our lots, we used to park the cars 2 feet apart. Now they're 1.5 inches apart. That's how few spots we have.
Right.
There's so many cars on the lot. So these high interest rates are really digging in. If you bought a $2 million house, and the difference between a 2% rate and an 8% rate, you're talking about, several $1,000s a month, $4,000 a month. And it's just becoming unaffordable.
Especially don't forget your credit cards. That people put stuff on their credit cards. That's what 27%. The people that don't pay off their credit cards at the each time groceries. So, I mean, it's a toll on the young people. I think they were saying how many people in their 30s are moving back home with their parents.
I'm thinking about moving back home.
That's another story. That's a whole other issue that you have. But I mean, that's like it's becoming normalized that the kids feel to like come on back, But you'll see your son and the frat boys. They're gonna start moving a little bit more because they're gonna have to do something. Their answer can't be. Their answer will not be able to be, "I'm gonna do nothing."
No, I think they'll all vote.
So for who? Newsom?
So I was happy to be in this discussion with them where at least they moved a little.
Right.
So I wasn't trying to pin them down. I was happy to hear a little movement. And then as we get further into the cycle, we'll get into like a little more spirited. But you do have this David Axelrod. David Axelrod was Obama's brains for his campaigns. They brought him in for both campaigns. And David Axelrod was on TV, all week long saying Joe Biden, his numbers are bad, doesn't look good for Uncle Joe.
Well, it doesn't. The guy needs to step aside, but he won't, and that's the good thing for
Does he understand he needs?
No. And you know what? The thing that's crazy, the Democratic Party, where it's in a really tough situation right now, is when John Fetterman is starting to make sense.
Senator Fetterman.
Yeah, is starting. The guy that's the stroke guy who basically told these people that were yelling at him, my excuse is I have a stroke to stop them from yelling at him. When he starts making sense, when he basically said there are 3 people running for president of the United States in the Democratic Party. He says one is Joe Biden. He said the other one is the guy from Minnesota who declared that he's running against Joe Biden. And then he says you got the guy in the closet, Newsom. He said the guy he called him a coward. He says because he's just sitting there in the wings. He's really running. That's why he went to China. He's just sitting back. He's scared to say he's running. And, some people say that DeSantis should have done that with Donald Trump. He should have just sat there, been a fan of Donald Trump, be a cheerleader of Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump's court cases go against him, DeSantis could have stood up and said, okay, I'm your guy.
Well, I have a lot of people, now that we have over 150,000 listeners, I have a lot of people coming up to me and, suggestions for the show we're talking about. And so many people are these conspiracy theorists, and they have these crazy ideas about, Michelle Obama. There's not a picture anywhere on the internet of her being pregnant with her 2 children. And, they're talking about maybe her entering the race, but is she a man or is she a woman, And
well, you're not really allowed, you can't even define. If the person on the Supreme Court, Jackson, if she can't even define what a woman is, then why? That's not even an issue. It's not an issue, so she can run as as Michelle Obama.
Yeah, they say look at her arms. Her arms are like a muscle man. You know, she's a
could have been in vitro. It could have been like one of those.
right. And then they talk about Obama's chef that mysteriously died, and the next day nobody hears about this guy that was the White House chef, and he had swimmer, and all of a sudden he's dead. You know, all these people that the planes didn't really hit 9/11. It was like photoshopped. You know, they have all these conspiracy theories that Obama is really the shadow president. Joe Biden isn't running things. Obama's out there running everything.
I'll tell you what, one thing that the Democratic Party could have a good time tonight besides,
Oh, yeah, tonight, folks, is the Republican debate, and we already predicted a winner. Who's our winner tonight?
Who's the winner tonight? There's two winners. It's going to be DeSantis and Nikki Haley. It's in DeSantis' home park. It's his home stadium. But if you want to have
Trump's got to be the winner. He's not going to show up.
He's not going to show up. But if you want to get a chuckle, watch Chris Christie go to town tonight. He's like in the ring. This is his ring. He can't wait to blast Donald Trump. He is going to, whatever you think, how bad it could be. There's going to be nothing. He's not holding back anything. Matter of fact, you know what Donald Trump called him the other day?
What?
He lost his cool. He called him a fat fucker.
He said that?
Yeah, he did.
On TV?
In his press conference. He just said it. Yeah, he just basically he couldn't take it because this guy, Chris Christie, is going to come for bear tonight. And he's going to just attack Donald Trump. He's not going to really go after DeSantis as much. He's going after Donald Trump.
But on what can he attack? You know, Donald Trump really isn't running the country. He has to attack Joe Biden. That would be the guy he would be up against.
He thinks you have to attack the person that's leading the party right now.
But the man hasn't made a decision in 3 years. What can he attack him about?
Right now he's the leading candidate. So if he doesn't run, you take him out. Chris Christie thinks he can maybe beat DeSantis or Haley, even though he can't.
But I mean, his argument with Trump is what? He has 97 counts against him in all these lawsuits, or the man is not involved in the chaos in America right now. He's not involved in Ukraine. He's not involved in Israel. He's not involved in foreign policy.
It's going to be, I'm telling you, Democrats are going to laugh tonight when they see this. And Donald Trump just wants to know, he's thinking, after this debate, DeSantis is going to probably be at Joe Stone Crabs. Nikki Haley might be at Prime 112. And Chris Christie is going to be at the Golden Corral.
Yeah, he's going to be at Primo Subs. He's going to be in
Golden Corral.
Yeah, he'll be at the Golden Corral.
And just to let you know how he goes against everything, here he is. He was the governor of New Jersey. Cherry Hill's right over the bridge from Philadelphia, and what's his favorite team? The Dallas Cowboys. He sits with Jerry Jones every game. I mean,
there's a lot of food in Jerry Jones's box.
Yeah,
you ever seen the amount of food in there?
You're representing South Jersey. South Jersey is Eagle country. How do you sit there? How do you sit in the box with the guy? Stay at home in your chair and cheer for Dallas. But to show up and go to a stadium where all your people that vote for you, you're going to sit there and cheer with Jerry Jones, which is the enemy of the Eagles? Stupid.
So we have him. We have Vivek tonight.
He's fading. He's fading fast.
He's fading fast.
He's
and
on the
then
wrong
we
end
have
of a lot of
Nikki
things.
Haley, who's really good on foreign policy.
Not only is she good on foreign policy, she nailed it with the abortion thing. She is the first Republican that's on the right side of this issue. She knows that it's a losing thing, and she wants to move on, and that's it.
Will they discuss abortion tonight, you think?
Yeah,
because
NBC,
of what?
NBC's running it. Of course, they want them to. NBC's going to want to put the Republicans in a box.
Right.
And after this election last night, they're going to say, "Well, you lost Virginia because of this issue." It's a great talking point for NBC.
Yeah, I don't know how they get beyond it. Maybe they can ignore it. Can they ignore the whole issue? I mean, just say, let's move on. I mean,
No.
Chris Christie has the ability to do that. He can just say, well, I'm not talking about it tonight.
I think he's going to take the side that he's going to be for it. I think he's going to leave DeSantis. That's the one subject that takes DeSantis out because of Florida. He wants it to be 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's where DeSantis is going to take some incoming. I'm telling you, he's going to take incoming, and NBC is going to try to do that for him.
So staying on the losers, obviously the American people, we're taking a
New
beating.
Yorkers.
The New Yorkers.
I mean, first of all,
the misinformed.
well, first of all, if you're in New York, do you think you have a lot going on in your city with the homeless, the crime? It's a lot of stuff's going on in that.
Taxes.
A lot of stuff's going on. The head of their Loretta Lynch, is that her? No, it's not Loretta Lynch. It's who's the attorney general?
Yeah,
for
Loretta. What is the one that's going after Trump?
Lynch, I think
Yeah.
it is. I mean, why is she in the front row of this 2-week trial that the judge already made up his mind? So this is just the penalty phase. Why is she there every day? I mean, like, you have all this crime. By the way, there's nobody got hurt. There's no victim. There's no nothing. I know she ran on this, but I mean, doesn't she have anything better to do? Can't she send like an underling to sit there with her? I mean, she can. Like, why is she there for 2 solid weeks when you got so much stuff going on in New York?
Well, the question that I ask about the Trump case is all about the fact that Donald Trump inflated his net worth to get better terms on his bank loans and his insurance. And my question is, let's assume we figure out what, in fact, his net worth really was. Let's say instead of $3 billion, it was $1 billion. What would the terms be? Would the terms be any different than the terms he got? And I would say and they're not making that argument. Even Alan Dershowitz isn't making that argument. I'm saying if he got 1 point over LIBOR or whatever his rate was because he was worth $3 billion, if he was only worth $1 billion, would it still be 1 point over LIBOR? And I would argue yes. So I don't think there's I don't think there's a case here for them to argue if they argue that. I mean, his net worth it wasn't material.
I think that the problem is their messaging and getting people to understand it. Just like, for instance, if I said to you, out of all the real estate transactions in New York, out of all the billions of dollars of real estate transactions in New York, how many cases has ever come in front of a judge that there was no victims, the banks weren't hurt, and there has been no one that lost any money? It says that you have to do your own due diligence to like check out the thing. It's signed right there. How many cases have ever gone in front of a judge in the history of New York?
Hundreds?
This is the first one.
Is it really?
This is the first one.
So how can they not argue?
Ever.
Then why can't they argue that? Then it's a made up.
Well, the decision's already been made. You know, he's found guilty.
Yeah.
This is just the penalty phase. And by the way, no jury. So this is the only case. Talk about unprecedented. The only case that has ever gone in front of a judge in this case. It's like, and by the way, he happens to be the ex-president of the United States who is the #1 contender. And they want to like, and then they put his kids up. Then they put Ivanka up today.
Oh, she was on today?
Yeah.
Wow.
She looked good today. Up
Did
there,
she?
Yeah. So she was there today.
I've seen her in person. She's very tall.
Yeah, but
Like in heels, like 6'8".
but I mean, she was there today, and yet Hunter Biden, nothing. Joe Biden, they got the
Well, they're
they
the
got
winners. They're off the newspapers and everything.
I mean, I don't get it. And this guy Weiss, he's sitting there. I mean, all these guys. I mean, it's the power of this Democratic machine is unbelievable. And Donald Trump was right the whole time when he said, "I want to look into the Ukraine and everything." It's like it's just so unfair. That's the thing that frustrates a lot of people. How they get to see a 2-tier justice system where it's unfair.
But don't you think the Trump haters believe what's happening is fair? They're saying the guy, he rigged the system and he was able to
Rigged
get...
system is Mar-a-Lago worth $18 million.
Right.
Is it?
Well, you don't know. Did he say at some point to argue for lower real estate taxes? Did he put a lower value on it to get lower real estate taxes? And then when he went to get a bank loan, did he make it higher?
But that's out of his. He can put it down. Just like if he says this is what it's worth, and now someone for the bank gets to say either yes or no. It's not like Donald Trump is what he says is the law. So does everybody else do stuff like that?
Well, let me tell you, I did this my whole career. I was a real estate developer, and what the banks used to do is they used to make me give them my financial statement, and no matter what it said, it could say $0 or $1 trillion, whatever it was, and they would say, thank you very much, Mr. C. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to get 3 independent appraisals. You're going to pay for them, and we're going to pick the lowest one, and that's what we're going to borrow against. And I'm sure that happened in Trump's case too. And I don't understand what the whole case
Well,
is about.
let me ask you this. So, because this is where also value comes into play. You were a home builder. So, a name, for instance, let's say, is there a brand? Let's say Toll Brothers Homes. Toll Brothers Homes they build nice homes and everything. They have a brand. Now, is there another home builder out there that is, say, lower end than Toll Brothers? That's their niche. That's their brand that they have. Then you have all different people build their brands on where it's going to go. Do you think the Trump name? Now, my last name, Gottberg. I'm not in the building business. I don't build homes. Trump's name, if I built one house, I don't have a brand. It's just me selling one house. He does have a brand. You see Trump Tower. You see Trump in Chicago, Trump Hotel. Trump golf courses. He has a brand. What is the brand worth? So if you had a piece of real estate and you were in New York and Cuddy wanted to sell it, because it's Donald Trump's, just because it's Donald Trump's, it's the same land, same house. Is he entitled to more money because his name's on it?
Well, you see all the time businesses are sold on a multiple of brand value. I mean, it does happen. If somebody is going to buy a brand, let's say you're going to buy Rolex, you're going to keep the name Rolex.
How about a Hershey chocolate bar rather than another
chocolate bar?
If you wanted another chocolate bar and you called it something else, you wouldn't have it. But there's a brand out there,
Right.
Hershey's.
So Donald Trump didn't have any value on his financial statements for his brand. But I don't know how you value that, and I don't know that a bank would look at that. I don't know. We always tried to, talk about that, in our financial statements, and the bank just discounted it. They didn't want to give you brand value. They just said it's not something that, we can attach anything to. So who knows? Anyway, Gavi, we're tearing at the end of our hour here.
I got one thing I want to
Shoot.
one quick thing I got to just
Yes,
ask you.
sir.
I want to know if this is a Philadelphian thing. So I was out the other day, and maybe that we have more unity. Maybe the reason why Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. Down here in Florida, I was with someone from Philadelphia, and they ordered a black and white milkshake. But growing up in Philadelphia, that was the number one milkshake. Did you ever?
Sure.
Do you know?
Carvel.
Well, do you know someone in Florida? They said they never heard of a black and white milkshake.
Wow.
And I thought in Philadelphia, that's all. That was like the number one thing. They said that's a made up Philadelphia word. That it's like it's our own thing.
It could be. I mean, I never really, until I was older, didn't get outside of
That's
Philly.
why we're the city of brotherly love. We have a black and white
Right.
milkshake.
How about the black and white cookie? Is that a Philly thing?
That was Jerry Seinfeld. Remember, he thought the whole world would be better if it was just one cookie.
The black and white cookie.
If we could all get along like the cookie.
Right. Anyway, Gavi's headed to Cleveland tomorrow, and he's getting out of this beautiful weather. What's the weather in Cleveland?
It's dark gray. It's the Mistake by the Lake. It's dark and gray. I'm going to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Last time I was there, I did it.
That's a nice trip, yeah.
I saw it in an hour. I think my nephews are going to go to the Football Hall of Fame.
Beautiful.
I have to let my brother know that it's an hour away.
So
Plus
Gavi
traffic.
has a family wedding. He's going to be dressed up in a tuxedo, and it's a great event. And enjoy it. Enjoy your.
I can't wait to get back to Florida.
You haven't left. You can't wait to get back. Well, you can call me anytime during the weekend. I'll give you a quick weather update. Clear sky, sunny, top down.
I'll
no
wear my
deal.
Philadelphia Eagles stuff when I'm walking around the streets because they got the Browns there, which is
Right.
makes the Eagles feel like winners.
Well, anyway, you can find us on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Apple. Our website, cuddyandgavi.com, is under repair. Hopefully next week.
And remember, you gave it 1 week. Hostages should be out by our next podcast.
This is my prediction. 1 week. I hope I'm right. It would be great for the hostages.
Wasn't it big?
But I think the Israelis have them circled, and they're finding all the tunnel holes, and it's going to happen in the next
and
week.
remember, look for Chris Christie tonight. He's going hunting.
Oh, man, I can't wait to see that. All right, folks, have a great week.
Yep, see ya.
'Cause I'm only